Hey everyone, it's Mike Hambright with Flipnerd.com. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Expert Interview Show, where I interview leaders and entrepreneurs from across the real estate investing industry. So if you're new to the show, if you haven't listened before, if you're a first timer, hey, welcome here. We have hundreds of shows that you can access to learn from some of the most knowledgeable people in the real estate investing space. And if you already are a member of Flipnerd.com, welcome back. We're glad to have you here. And if you're not a member, please check out Flipnerd.com. You can get a free account in about 15 seconds now. We made it very easy. This is episode number 295 with Steve Bighouse. Steve has almost 25 years of experience in the mortgage industry. Specifically, he focuses on helping investors with financing or refinancing rental properties. And as a huge believer myself in building wealth and cash flow through rental properties, I'm really excited to have Steve with us here today because financing is key for rental properties. And we really hope to provide some clear steps to benefit everyone listening today, how you can either get started or ramp up your rental business. If you have been watching the show before, you'll know that recently we broke the show into two parts. Part one, we're going to get to know a little bit more about Steve. We're going to talk about different types of financing that are available. And then in part two, we're going to go into the taking action segment, and we're going to talk a lot more about how you can literally start taking steps to either getting financing or potentially even refinancing your properties. And Steve can help us with that. So Steve, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing great. Doing really good, Mike, and appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, glad to see you. And so, what's interesting is it wasn't all that long ago that it seemingly became nearly impossible to get financing for real estate. It just basically, during the downturn, it got tough, and it's almost starting to get too easy in some instances before you're starting to see some crazy stuff happening from a finance perspective. But maybe you could, first, why don't you maybe take a minute and tell us a little bit more about you and your background, and then we can talk about kind of the history of financing and maybe where things are going.
Okay. Well, I'm currently partnered with Security National Mortgage. My team here at Security National is Team Bighouse. I have 6 people that work for me. Like you stated earlier, Nat, our primary focus, our primary focus in that is financing investment properties. So we did 396 loans for investors last year, which we were up about 22% from last year. So real happy with that. My side of the business, as far as what I do and the niche I've created in that, not real glamorous. Because, my average loan size is probably $80,000. And, and I'll do some of the smaller loans that some of the other lenders won't do. And I do that as a service to my client base because, let's face it, you shouldn't get penalized because you can buy something in Memphis or Ohio that maybe doesn't fit what a big national lender wants to do. But, it's an opportunity for you to buy a cash flow property and create that passive income. And so, kind of done that, and it's been a great niche. I get to, when I go speak at events, occasionally and I get lenders that say, you really do those? And I said, absolutely. It's business for me. It's great referral. It's a great referral network that we've developed.
Yeah. And you're saying that what the feedback you get or the questions you get from other lenders is they're questioning that the fact that you work with investors, you're saying, or? Well,
that, and they'll work with some of the smaller loan amounts.
They would
said it's not worth their time.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. Really unfortunate.
Yeah, and from your perspective, and for those listening in, obviously, you're looking to build partnerships, right? You probably wouldn't do it if you knew every loan was going to be a one-off, but if you knew that I can help this person get, 5, 10, or more properties, then, I assume that's a big part of why you do it is because of basically the opportunity to be an ongoing provider for somebody, right?
Well, I do that, and it's great, and it's great to watch people succeed, and to get to those properties now where they're able to create that passive income, and they need to understand that it's just not short term, what they're looking at. They're looking at long-term investment, right. And to get them to that point, and that is very rewarding, and so I'm happy from that standpoint.
Yeah. Steve, well, let's talk about maybe at a high level. I know we're going to get into the details in the back half of the show, but just talk about different types of financing that are available. So because we have kind of veteran and new folks alike on the show, we may be a little academic for some of you that have experience, but I think a lot of people are often surprised that you can get government financing through Fannie type loans that they just wouldn't think would actually fund investment vehicles. But maybe can you just kind of lay out the most common financing types for rental owners?
Yeah. So you've got, basically as a company, we sell to both Fannie and Freddie. And so the conventional financing is probably, 99% of our business. And that's where we're selling stuff there. So, a lot of people think that it's really tough to get a loan. Well, when you're dealing with the investors, whereas maybe with the first-time home buyers, you might struggle a little bit. Typically, the investors, they've got the job, they've got some cash in the bank, they've got decent credit. Those people are not tough to do. I mean, they're just not. What becomes the issue with getting that financing is how knowledgeable that the person on my end is to be able to get that type of financing. That's where it really becomes the issue.
Yeah.
And typically the investors can be a little bit more complex than, say, people that are buying primary residences. But both Fannie and Freddie, Fannie's always been pretty aggressive with the investors. They have been. Freddie Mac, they just came around in October of this year, made some changes, increased their number of finance properties to 6, did away with their landlord history experience requirement. Those are positive moves for the investor.
Yeah.
So when I hear people out there that said, it's really tough for investors to get loans, well, it really isn't. I mean, again, in that, what really determines in that is how tough it is going to be how good the person is on my side and the company. The company themselves want to be able to support the originators.
Yeah. So, and then outside of Fannie and Freddie, so the Fannie and Freddie are typically, if you're getting started and you don't have any rental properties right now, or kind of under 10, if you will, that's probably the best place for most people to start, right?
Correct. And then a lot of people are recognizing right now, I mean, we're doing it with my wife. We're taking a retirement account and we're going to buy some properties in our self-directed IRAs. And that's anytime that I look at my clients, that's one of the areas that I go to, and we always have that discussion. Even though I don't do that type of financing, I want to be able to be that point where I can give some, what do I want to say? Plant the seed. That's what I want to be able to do. And so, you've got the conventional financing, people can look at their IRAs, and then you've got some portfolio lenders that are starting to come out. I look at the portfolio side with some of those companies out there still a little cautiously because it's still relatively new and still getting their feet wet. And so I tell my clients, I says, because they talk to me about these things, I said, just think of your hamster on a spinning wheel, okay? So just think of how long you want to be on that wheel to get this done. My recommendation is we wait a little bit, see how some of these products go, and then we can jump on that. Or they can always move into the commercial realm. And so the commercial realm is where they'll bundle. They'll take the properties that they have, they'll form an S-corp, they'll bundle everything. That's a little bit more complex, a little bit more costly. And I tell people, I says, let's right now and now, let's look at the the singles, because I think that's a better way to go. I mean,
Sure.
I've done some stuff where we've bundled, where we've done the commercial loans, but it takes a while. It really does take a while to get them done.
Yeah, for folks that are listening out there, I'd say in my experience, lending, especially on the rental property side, is somewhere where you really want to think of your lender. Find somebody that is really kind of a partner, a member of your team, because you can maybe talk a little bit about what you do, Steve, but I know that when somebody can tell you, if it's not just transactional, like, hey, I need a house, come help me, and it's more like, here's what I'm trying to do over time, then you can provide some guidance there that you're just not otherwise going to get. Is that safe to say?
Absolutely correct in that. And where I want to be, and as I tell my clients, as I said, I want to be your resource. I'm not a 9-to-5 guy, and that's why I said if you need to contact me with after hours, you can pop me an email, send me a text, give me a phone call. Same thing on the weekends. I need to be part of their team, because that's the only way that they're going to get successful with investment, investing in lending. I tell them, I says, they got to have somebody that helps them provide inventory. They've got to have a good lender, maybe an attorney, an accountant. You've got to have a team. You can't be experts in all those areas.
Right.
The other thing is I tell the people, and that is that, you can always find pricing a little bit cheaper than what I am. And the question I ask them, I says, that's fine. I says, so in other words, you can be a transactional customer or you can be a relationship.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, the people that are transactional are only going to be able to get you up to, this point as far as property. They're not going to be able to help you after that. And
Right.
if giving you advice, they're not going to be able to give you any advice because they're just order takers.
Right. Yeah, and if you jump around that way, if you're transaction to transaction, you never get efficient in terms of doing the next loan because you're starting from scratch every single time. That underwriter may have a different processes and stuff, and they don't remember. They can't say, well, remember last time we needed all this, or I remember all this from you about last time, so you don't need to provide it again, maybe in some instances. So there's a lot of value there to kind of building a longer term relationship.
And I think not only the value on my side, I mean, all the information that we collect from our borrowers, we keep electronically. So if they come back to me 3-6 months down the line, I've got their application on file. We'll go over their information with them, make sure that employment hasn't changed. We'll address it, making sure they haven't moved, taken on any additional debt. So it's real easy to do. And then we also get, because I've got 2 underwriters that all they do is my stuff, is that when they come in, I'll look and see who the underwriter was on their last file, and I'll direct that file over to them because they're probably familiar with what they've done. So the process is a lot smoother, for the clientele. Definitely not as painful. Absolutely by far, because again, you're not starting all over again.
Right. In my experience, Steve, maybe you can give some guidance on this. I'll tell you kind of my situation. When my wife and I started as real estate investors, we literally left our jobs, kind of cold turkey, dove in with 2 feet. I'm not saying that I recommend anybody do that, but one of the challenges we had is we got into this knowing we wanted to accumulate rental properties, and we built a nice portfolio now. The problem is when we went to get, then we basically couldn't qualify for Fannie and Freddie type loans because we were self-employed without 2 years tax returns. We were basically new entrepreneurs with no kind of safety net on a salary coming in or anything like that.
Sure.
And then the problem is by the time that we had that, 2 years later, we had well over 10 rental properties. And the interesting thing about the GSEs, the Fannie and Freddies of the world is this, it's one of those government things that you just kind of scratch your head and say, how does this make sense? Is the originally my thinking is, hey, I can get 10 properties financed through them, but you just basically can't own more than 10 rental properties. Even if I own them all free and clear, at the time at least, they wouldn't say, well, we don't care if you own 100, we'll finance the next 10. It was basically, you own more than 10, and therefore, we can't provide financing. Am I saying that right?
So now on that, so properties that are owned free and clear don't count in that mix. We're only looking at finance properties.
Okay.
So 1 to 4 finance properties. I don't count commercial properties. So if you own an 8-plex, that's not going to be counted in the mix. The other misconception is people, and I got to laugh at this one, people have first and second mortgages on their properties, right? And some lenders will count those as 2 finance properties because they think it's the number of loans. Well, I don't care if you got 20 loans on a property; it's
right.
1 finance property.
Okay.
So it has nothing to do with the number of loans. So the other thing to do too in that is that one of the things that I look at, and this comes into that whole scenario as far as being able to talk with the lender that knows what they're doing, is that, we'll get people that are husband and wife, domestic partners that want to buy properties. So the first thing I look at is, can I separate them? Can they qualify individually? Because I can literally double their buying power if they can do that.
Sure. So say that again. A husband and wife could buy typically up to how many properties then, if they're able to split? Why don't we say if you're able to split them up, and then talk about what that means, like splitting them up.
Basically, what I'm going to do is, when you qualify for an investment property, you only have to make enough money to cover your existing housing expense, whether it's rent or first mortgage payment, and any installment revolving debt that you have. I can use rental income from day one to offset the payment, so you're not incurring any additional debt. So if they both have jobs, and they're able to support that, I can split them up. Where they could buy, and so some lenders will come back and say that you've got to file separate tax returns and bank statements, a bunch of bunk. You don't, and that's just a lender overlay that they place. So the beauty about it is, here's what's really cool, is you get like asset statements, for example. Okay, a lot of husband and wives or domestic partners that they're going to have joint accounts.
Sure. And
so maybe they got $100,000 in this joint account. Well, let's say the husband's buying the first set of houses. Okay. So, we need to make sure that he has access to all those funds. We just have the right to write a letter stating that he has 100% access to all those funds. Well, guess what? Then he can do that. And then it's vice versa when the wife starts buying her properties. So there's things that you can do that definitely help the borrower. unfortunately, a lot of the people out there that are doing some of the investment property financing, they're just not in tune to these tricks, or, well, I shouldn't say tricks, just they're tools that we can,
Nuances, yeah.
yeah, we can utilize and make people, where they can really maximize their buying power. I mean, I've got, I can't tell you how many clients I have, husband and wife, that own double digits. I mean, 18, 19, 20 properties.
Yeah.
And they're set. And once they get to that, they go, God, we got 20 properties. We don't need to buy anymore.
Yeah, that's great. Hey everyone, it's time for the taking action portion of the show. If you're hearing or watching at this point, you're probably watching us or listening on iTunes or YouTube, possibly even on flipnerd.com, but you are not set up as a pro or elite member yet. So to see the rest of the show with Steve Bighouse, we're going to start getting into how to get these loans and some things you need to do to get started. And we're going to talk probably a little bit about refinancing too. If you already have some properties and you're considering refinancing where rates are really good right now, there's a lot of things in your favor potentially, then please upgrade your account to a pro or elite member. This is show number 295, and you can do that if you go to flipnerd.com/show295, flipnerd.com/show295. Additionally, when you become a pro or elite member, you get access to hundreds of hours of interviews and training. And right now we have almost 1,300 off-market properties listed on the site as well. So you get full access to all of that. flipnerd.com/show295. Are you a member of flipnerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit flipnerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry. So get on over to flipnerd.com.